Governor Bashir was there. Mitch, I forgot his name, the Senate leader, Republican leader was there.
So it takes someone 5 minutes to Google Jake Tapper, Donald Trump, to see that Jake Tapper has consistently frequently likened President Trump to Adolf Hitler.
Ma'am, I'm going to stop this interview if you continue to attack my colleagues. I would like to talk about Joe Biden and Donald Trump, who you work for.
Yes.
If you are here to speak on his behalf, I am willing to have this conversation.
If you actually answered questions, maybe Americans would trust this administration. Those were the scorching words from Karoline Leavitt that left Karine Jean-Pierre completely stunned on live television. The audience gasped, the host looked shocked, and within minutes, Twitter, or X, exploded with reactions. But how did we get here? What led to this dramatic confrontation between two of the most talked about women in U.S. political media?
Appreciate the request. Thank you for the request. The president, as you know, again, I appreciate the question and I get it, and the president understands. You guys want to ask him questions and have the opportunity for him to answer your questions. I do want to say.
But was he aware of his signature being used on every single pardon? That's a question you should ask the Biden White House.
Is there any evidence on that he wasn't aware of it?
You're a reporter. You should find out. Okay, Sean.
Sometimes I get it wrong. At least I admit that. At least I admit that. And sometimes I don't have the information. And I will always admit that. But I do take offense to what was just happening at the beginning of this briefing. It's not okay.
In this video, we're breaking down the build-up, the moment of impact, and the fallout from this viral showdown. Was Karoline Leavitt right? Or did she go too far? Stay tuned because this one is going to be explosive. On one side, we have Karoline Leavitt, the youngest White House press secretary in U.S. history. At just 27 years old, she's a rising star in conservative politics, fiercely outspoken and unapologetically direct. A staunch supporter of Trump's America First agenda, she's made it clear: no more dodging, no more scripted, vague answers.
Most divisive and disgusting speech that any president, certainly in my lifetime, has ever given. He essentially waged war on half of the country by saying that we are all a threat to democracy because we believe in putting America first. It's not radical to want to put your country and your own people first. It's not radical to want to have a strong border, a strong military, and to unleash the might of your own economy, not economies around the world.
On the other side, we have Karine Jean-Pierre, who served as President Biden's White House press secretary from 2022 to 2024. She made history as the first Black and openly gay woman to hold the role, but her tenure was highly controversial, with critics arguing she was one of the least transparent press secretaries in modern history, often avoiding direct answers to the press. These two polar opposites met in what quickly became a showdown for the ages, and we're here to break it all down.
The 3/4 of voters who are worried about his physical and mental health, that he is okay, even though in Las Vegas he told a story about recently talking to a French president who died in 1996.
I'm not even going to go down that rabbit hole with you, sir.
Want to talk about violence against political opponents? Let's talk about the fact that Democrats have been labeling President Trump a threat to democracy for the better half of 10 years. Let's talk about how they have compared him to Hitler, one of the worst mass murderers in the history of the world, and that Kamala Harris and Joe Biden weaponized the court system and the justice system in this country against Donald Trump in an attempt to imprison him.
We can end this briefing if it's not going to be respectful here. Chris.
That's what I'm saying. You're receiving an African leader and you don't take questions.
Thanks, everybody.
I have a question about gas prices.
Thanks, everybody.
At the heart of the debate was a fundamental question. Can the American people trust what the White House is telling them? During her time at the podium, Jean-Pierre repeatedly deflected questions from journalists. Whether it was about inflation, the border crisis, the Afghanistan withdrawal, or Biden's mental fitness, she often dodged, redirected, or outright refused to answer.
I don't have anything. I don't have anything. I don't have anything. I don't have anything. I just don't have anything. I don't have anything. We don't have anything. I just don't have anything. Don't have anything. So I don't have anything. 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 I just don't have.
Leavitt, now holding that very same role, has vowed to be different. She's promised complete transparency, no matter how uncomfortable the truth may be. So, when the two met on live TV, it was inevitable. Leavitt was going to call Jean-Pierre out on her legacy of deflection. Before their live debate, Karoline Leavitt had already taken multiple shots at Jean-Pierre. She publicly criticized Jean-Pierre's refusal to answer basic questions, calling it a disgrace. She went viral for mocking Jean-Pierre's famous catchphrase, "I have nothing to share on that at this time." She labeled Jean-Pierre's time in the White House as the era of stonewalling, vowing to bring actual answers back to the press room. And on the other side, Jean-Pierre wasn't happy with how Leavitt had been attacking her tenure. She defended herself, saying, "The role of press secretary is about balance. You don't just blurt out everything. You have to handle information responsibly." But that argument didn't sit well with Leavitt, who had receipts ready for their televised debate. The debate started cordial enough, but when Leavitt got her moment, she took her shot. Leavitt to Jean-Pierre. "You stood at that podium for years and refused to answer basic questions. Now you're sitting here criticizing transparency? That's rich." Jean-Pierre visibly tensed up. She tried to pivot, but Leavitt wasn't letting up. Leavitt, cutting in. Americans were fed scripted, rehearsed talking points. That's not transparency, that's PR. And it's why people didn't trust the Biden administration. The crowd reacted immediately. The host looked like he wasn't sure what to say, and Jean-Pierre, for the first time in the segment, looked rattled. It was a knockout moment that everyone would be talking about after the debate. Immediately after the show, the internet went wild. Supporters of Leavitt praised her as a no-nonsense fighter, finally exposing the media's long-standing evasion tactics. Critics accused Leavitt of being unnecessarily aggressive, arguing that Jean-Pierre was just doing her job the best she could. Major conservative voices like Ben Shapiro and Tucker Carlson called it a masterclass in political debate, while progressive commentators argued Leavitt was being disrespectful. On Twitter, or X, hashtags like Non-Leavitt Destroys and Transparency Matters started trending. It was clear, this wasn't just another political debate. It was a full-on culture war moment. Following the debate, both women stayed in the headlines. Leavitt doubled down on her commitment to real answers, refusing to attend the White House Correspondents' Dinner, calling it an elitist media circle jerk. Jean-Pierre fired back in interviews, saying Leavitt was playing politics with the truth and being performative rather than professional. More media scrutiny has now been placed on the Biden-era press tactics, with journalists questioning whether Jean-Pierre really was as transparent as she claimed to be. One thing's for sure, this debate reignited a conversation about government accountability, and neither Leavitt nor Jean-Pierre is backing down. At the end of the day, this was about more than two press secretaries arguing on TV. This was about trust. For years, Americans have felt lied to by politicians. Press briefings have become scripted PR performances rather than genuine discussions. Leavitt represents a new wave of direct, unapologetic political communication. Jean-Pierre, whether intentional or not, became a symbol of bureaucratic evasion. So, who won the debate? That depends on who you ask. But one thing's for sure, Karoline Leavitt isn't going anywhere. And if this showdown proved anything, it's that she's just getting started. What do you think? Was Karoline Leavitt right to call out Karine Jean-Pierre, or was she being too aggressive? Comment below with your thoughts. And if you love political showdowns like this, make sure to subscribe for more hard-hitting debates. Hit that like button, and let's keep the conversation going.